everyone. Like May said just now, my name is Christine. That's my sister Angeline, and we'll be going to do a chalk art presentation. Usually it takes about 20 minutes for the whole presentation, and she will usually draw the whole thing as I talk. But this time because of time constraint, we have drawn everything at home, and well, we've got some more left for here. So enjoy. The year was 1748. The sun was beating down on the sparse African plain. At the bustling port, a 23-year-old English captain pushed his way through the sea of black people as he quickened to his ship. Some of his crew members were busy hoisting up the multiple sails of the ship as others began to loosen the anchor. The captain yelled orders to his men as he got on the boat. "Hurry up, you good-for-nothing people! We ain't got all day!" Not too far away, a rugged crew member dragged a young black man on board. "This one tried to get away, sir," he said roughly. The captain shot a cruel look at the young hostage. "You know what to do with him." A light whistling sound, a loud crack, and a piercing cry from the distance followed. This was a slave trading ship, and it was bound for England. At last, the ship was off. It was the perfect day to set sail. The waves were calm, and there was hardly a cloud in the sky. "If the weather keeps up, we should be able to arrive in England as scheduled," the captain said to his men. Days went by smoothly, as predicted by the captain. Nights were a time where most activities ceased, except for a few crew members who were on duty. Beneath the top deck, men, women, girls and boys, approximately 600 in total, crammed, coughing and shivering because of the cold night air, squirmed uncomfortably. There was a terrible stench that filled the air. A few women began wailing loudly. Someone had died. They were fast shackled to the hard wooden boards of the ship, so the only thing they could do was to call out in their native tongue. Their cry for help was answered quickly. "What do you want now?" they hollered. The men who were on duty hollered, mumbling profanities under their breath. The light from the lamps they were holding lit the lower deck dimly as the stench became apparent to them. "Two dead," muttered the first sailor to the other. They shoved the slaves around as they made their way to the dead bodies, yanked them roughly out of their shackles, and threw them out of the ship. Atop the deck, a figure could be seen, reeling, coughing violently. However, no one thought to question him, because the figure was a common sight at night. It was the captain, and he was drunk. The next evening, there was a significant billowing of the winds. Dark clouds loomed in the horizon as the sky grew darker by the minute. Light drizzles turned into heavy pelts as the crew scrambled to pull the sails down. The captain was working hard at the stern, commanding his men and trying to steer the ship in the right direction. "I can do this," he thought, hands gripping to the steer tight. "The ship is big. She will ride through the storm." More thunder clapped. Rain beat down on the faces of the men till they could hardly see. The waves hurled against the vessel, stronger and harder till they threatened to engulf everyone. The ship rocked violently, and one of the sailors was swept overboard. "Captain, we're going down!" yelled a crew member as another huge wave crashed onto the deck, damaging one of the sails. The sky illuminated for a split second as lightning flickered above them. "No!" thought the captain. Suddenly, his whole life flashed before him. As a young boy, John was exposed to the world of seafaring. His father was a captain of a merchant ship and was often away for long periods of time. His mother, who was a devout Christian, brought him up in the ways of God. They attended church every Sunday and read the Bible together. At the age of 11, he left England to join his father in seafaring, and by the time he was 19, he enlisted into the service on sea as a man of war. After a series of events that followed, he became the captain of his own slave ship. By then, he had long given up his religious convictions, preferring to indulge in sinful pursuits. John lived a blatantly profane lifestyle, frequently drunk, deep into the slave trade, and constantly mistreating slaves. A blaze of lightning snapped him back to the present moment. He could barely stand at the stern, with rain pounding on his face. The young captain saw his men scrambling for their lives. As the storm roared with yet more vengeance, John was faced with a decision. Dare he, a wretched sinner who so pridefully resisted God, cry out to the Almighty for help? And would God even listen to his plea? In his deep distress, knowing for sure that the ship was going to sink, the captain surrendered and knelt down. "Lord, have mercy!" he cried with anguish, acknowledging that he could no longer be in control and that he needed God. Gradually but miraculously, the storm subsided. The captain knew that it could only have been the divine hand that kept his ship from sinking. Back in the cabin, he knelt down with a heart full of gratefulness and prayed for salvation, for Jesus to be his captain. With God as his guide, he steered the ship back on course, and they docked safely shortly afterward. His life was forever changed after that incident in May 10th, 1748. Back in England, John Newton penned down the words of that famous hymn we all know, "Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see." He had experienced God's saving grace, mercy and kindness, favor and forgiveness, even when he thought that he had ought to die. Thank you. Sorry if you couldn't see it. It's actually a hand which is reaching out to the ship, and it is like God is actually in control of the storm and he's coming to save